You ever watch someone destroy their own life just to make yours miserable? Because let me tell you, that's what it looked like from my side of the fence, literally and figuratively. Picture this. It's 2 in the morning. There's a blizzard. And I'm standing out there in my slippers, teeth chattering, holding a flashlight, and staring at a generator cable that's been sliced clean through copper wires poking out like bones. That moment I realized some people would rather watch the world flood than let you have peace. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You want to know how I got here waging suburban warfare with a woman who could have given Napoleon a run for his money, grab a coffee, or whatever makes you feel cozy, because this story's a ride. My name's Rex Holloway. I'm 52, retired Navy, spent more years elbow deep in wires and generators than I care to count. About a year back, life threw a couple curveballs our way. My wife, Sarah, the love of my life, finally rang that cancer-free bell. Loudest, happiest sound I ever heard. But cancer doesn't just take a toll on your body, it drains your bank account too. So we sold the old house, moved to a little ranch in Willowbrook Heights, on the highest point in the neighborhood, which as it turns out is more important than I ever guessed. Now here's the first thing nobody warns you about downsizing into suburbia, the Homeowners Association. That, my friend, is where the real games begin. 3 days in, I met Cheryl Blackwood, the HOA president. 8 years running real estate agent, and a glare that could cut glass. She showed up with a clipboard, a cloud of perfume, and the kind of welcome that says, "I'd like to check your papers, not bake you cookies." I could practically feel her sizing up my house like a general inspecting enemy lines. Compliance issues, she said, like she was reporting a crime scene. Apparently the shed out back, built years before I even moved in, was 2 inches too close to the property line. 2 inches I measured showed her the permits, the inspection reports, the whole 9 yards. Didn't matter. Next morning, $50 fine taped to my door. And that's how it started. You ever play chess with someone who keeps adding new pieces after every move? That's Cheryl. Pretty soon the violation notices became a ritual. Wrong shade of black on the mailbox. Grass a 1/4 inch too high. Trash cans visible for more than 30 seconds. Each envelope with her curly signature felt like a little slap. Sarah tried to laugh it off. She'd beaten cancer after all. What was a little suburban drama compared to that? But the stress, the anxiety, it crawled in anyway, wrapped itself around our mornings like a cold draft. Here's the thing about bullies, they never stop at petty. Cheryl saw our generator as an eyesore. Never mind that Sarah's treatments left her weak, that we needed backup power for her medical gear. I installed it by the book, permits, pro installation, the whole deal. Cheryl wanted it gone, claimed it was unsightly. Meanwhile, hers sat hidden behind a screen of fake lattice. Community standards, she told me as if she was quoting scripture. Now, I'm not a saint, but I am an engineer. And I started to notice something she'd missed. Every house in this little enclave sat downhill from mine. The drainage lines all ran my way. Sump pumps, gutters, the works, they depended on gravity, and gravity, as it turns out, answered to me. Mother Nature's got her own sense of timing. 3 weeks later, we got hit with the worst ice storm in years. Power lines snapped, streets turned to glass. It was like waking up in a war zone, except the enemy was the weather and the casualties were your pipes. Every house but mine went dark. My generator hummed along, heat on Sarah's equipment running, and maybe most important, our neighbor Mrs. Graham's oxygen machine still alive through a long, dangerous night. Cheryl, she saw a chance to strike. Showed up with her minions, breath smoking in the air, faces red from cold and righteous indignation. "It's unconscionable," she said, "to hoard power while your neighbors suffer." She wanted me to run extension cords to her friends' houses, overload the system, risk it all. "This is about community spirit," she sniffed, staring at my generator like it had personally insulted her. I tried to explain calmly, too much load and everything shuts down, including Mrs. Graham's lifeline. Cheryl just rolled her eyes. Then out of nowhere, she whips out a new rule: emergency, whatever section this, subsection that. Said I had to hand over control of the generator to the HOA or shut it down. You ever argue with someone who's already decided you're the villain? Yeah, that night I took a walk through the snow. And it clicked, the whole neighborhood drained through my land. Not just lucky drainage, but a design choice from decades ago. In my backyard, hidden under a metal cover, I found the control valves for every sump pump in Willowbrook Heights. That's when I realized I didn't just have backup power. I had the floodgates. Things got uglier. The next morning, Cheryl escalated. She brought the county inspector and a news crew to my door, made a whole production for TV, me the villain hoarding power, letting old ladies freeze. I showed the inspector the numbers, noise within limits, permits in order. He shrugged, checked his boxes. Cheryl called a meeting that night, mandatory for equitable power distribution. The media loved it, drama conflict the American way. But while Cheryl was writing speeches, I was doing research. My generator didn't just power my house. It ran the emergency comms repeater for the entire neighborhood, 911 service for everyone. If she shut me down, she'd be breaking federal law. When I pointed that out, plus the fact that I now controlled the flood valves, the room went so quiet you could hear the candle flicker. The board backed off. Even Cheryl voted to table the issue. You'd think that would be the end of it. But people like Cheryl, they don't quit when they're cornered. They get mean. A couple nights later, I woke to the sound of silence. No generator. I ran outside barefoot, freezing, found my power cables sliced through clean as a surgeon's cut. Sarah called 911, but the phones were dead too. The repeater was out. Mrs. Graham's backup battery had maybe 4 hours left. We hustled her to her daughter's place in the truck. By the time we got home, rage had settled in my chest like a stone. Cheryl hadn't just vandalized property, she'd put lives in danger. That day I installed security cameras everywhere, the kind the NSA would envy. And then I started digging. Financial records, service contracts, property filings. Cheryl and her husband had been funneling HOA money into their own company for years. Lawn care billed triple snow removal at 5 times market rate. Over $50,000 missing. And all that time she was busy protecting the community. You'd think she'd lie low, but Cheryl, she came to my door with that crocodile smile. I let her know quietly that the FBI was interested in our little HOA now. The way her face changed, you'd think I'd poured ice water down her back. She skittered away, plotting her next move. Not long after, I found the old blueprints for the subdivision Pure Luck stashed by the last owner. There it was in black and white. My yard was the control center for the whole stormwater system. 6 valves, each marked for a section of the neighborhood. In a power outage, whoever ran those valves decided whose basement flooded and whose stayed dry. And under state law, in an emergency, the person running that system had broad protection. As long as I kept life safety first, medical needs, kids, elderly, I could do what I had to. It was like being handed a shield and a sword all in one. That spring, the thaw hit hard. All the snow, all the ice, all at once. I filed my emergency plan with the county, dotted every I, crossed every T, put on my emergency management vest, official as can be, and started working those valves. Priority to Mrs. Graham, the Kowalskis, and their baby, the Morrisons. Anyone with a real need. Cheryl. Her house was at the bottom of the list, right where the water pooled. The next few days played out like bad reality TV. Cheryl wading through her basement in boots, trying to shop vac her way out of trouble. Showing up at my door, smile-cracking voice, desperate. I showed her the protocols, the paperwork, everything by the book. If you've ever seen karma at work, you know what I'm talking about. She tried to break into the vault, got scared off by the spotlights and my pre-recorded warning booming through the speakers. Called the media, tried to spin it into environmental terrorism. But the county backed me up, sent a text, "Keep up the good work." That one I saved. When her last move failed, she showed up with 2 guys in cheap suits, claimed they were lawyers, threatened lawsuits, demanded I stop flooding her basement. I explained with a smile the legal protocols, the way they looked at each other like they'd never actually read a law book in their lives. So Cheryl called a final emergency meeting, announced the board would vote me out of the neighborhood. The night before, I called Agent Rodriguez at the FBI, told him everything: sabotage, embezzlement, tampering with emergency systems. He listened calm as a stone. Next morning, as Cheryl stood in her disaster zone living room venting about terrorism and community safety, Agent Rodriguez walked in with a badge and a folder thick as a dictionary. He laid out the charges: sabotage, mail fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement, showed the records, the surveillance, the whole paper trail. When he cuffed Cheryl, Mrs. Graham clapped. The Kowalskis filmed it, and for a moment I saw what real justice looked like. Not perfect, not pretty, but satisfying as hell. 6 months later, I got a letter from FEMA, commendation for exemplary performance. It hangs in my workshop right next to a photo of Cheryl being led away. Sarah's medical bills are paid off now, partly from a consulting gig with the county, partly from teaching other neighborhoods how to prepare for disasters and deal with people like Cheryl. We set up an emergency fund, got everyone radios and backup power. Property values climbed. People felt safe. Turns out buyers love neighborhoods that survived disaster and cleaned house literally and figuratively. You know what still gets me? It wasn't just about power or money or even the rules. It was about one person's need to control to punish anyone who wouldn't kneel. But the world doesn't work that way, not forever. In the end, gravity wins, everything flows downhill. Sooner or later, the flood reaches the folks who sent it. So let me ask you, when someone in charge crosses that line, when rules become weapons, what do? Do you fight, even if it means getting your hands dirty, or do you walk away and hope someone else steps up? Tell me. And if you've ever had to stand your ground against a petty tyrant, well, I'd like to hear that story too. Maybe over a cup of coffee somewhere the lights never go out.